The Houston Texans just went from NFL Super Bowl contender team to the league's biggest disappointment in less than a month. What the hell is going on with the Houston Texans? Let's rewind to where this all started. The Texans had a remarkable turnaround season, from going from 3-13 in 2022 to back-to-back 10-7 seasons for 2023 and 2024, winning the AFC South both years. They have a core of young players on both offense and defensive that are projected to be superstars. Stroud is a budding star, and his trajectory is headed toward elite quarterback status. Will Anderson Jr. had recorded 18 sacks in his 2 seasons, including winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. DeMeco Ryans had transformed the culture and won Coach of the Year. The future looked incredibly bright. The playoff win over Cleveland was the exclamation point, a dominant 45-14 victory that announced the Texans as a force to be reckoned with. Yes, they got blown out by Baltimore in the divisional round, but that was viewed as a learning experience, not a red flag. This was a young team ahead of schedule, with their best days still to come. But there was one critical decision that has proven disastrous: trading away left tackle Laremy Tunsil. The Texans sent Tunsil to the Washington Commanders for a 2025 3rd and 7th round pick and a 2026 2nd and 4th round pick. The move was justified as a way to clear cap space and acquire draft capital, but it left a massive hole at the most important position on the offensive line. Before we continue, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's dive in. The Texans made some moves in the offseason to offset the loss of the Tunsil trade. They signed veteran tackle Cam Robinson and guard Laken Tomlinson. They also drafted Minnesota tackle Ariante Ursary in the 2nd round. The plan was for Ursary fill in the hole at left tackle that Tunsil used to occupy. It was a risky strategy, asking a 2nd round pick to replace a 5-time Pro Bowler protecting the franchise quarterback's blind side. The Texans also addressed the receiver group with the loss of Stefon Diggs. The receiver group is still solid with Nico Collins and Christian Kirk. The big loss is Stefon Diggs. Yes, Diggs did not play the whole season, but he provided the security blanket for Stroud, something all young quarterbacks need. With Diggs signing with the New England Patriots, the Texans drafted wide receivers Jaden Higgins from Iowa State and Jalen Knoll from Iowa State to help fill the void of Diggs' departure. Higgins has the combination of speed and jump ball abilities, which he can thrive in breaking routes and contested throws. Knoll has a ton of speed and explosive route runner with great footwork to create separation in tight spaces. Even with the draft picks, there was no definite answer to who can step in Diggs' role. Once training camp started, more concerns came about. Joe Mixon suffered a foot injury that landed him on the non-football injury list, sidelining him for at least the first 4 games. Rookie receivers Higgins and Knoll struggled to grasp the offense and had a hard time getting playing time on the field. The offensive line, with new starters at 3 positions, showed signs of communication issues and missed assignments in preseason games. Still, the hype train rolled on. Stroud looked good in limited preseason action. The defense, led by Anderson and Hunter, was dominant in joint practices with other teams. The consensus was that the Texans might start slowly as they integrated new pieces, but they'd round into form as a legitimate contender by mid-season. Then the regular season started, and reality hit hard. Week 1 against the Rams was a disaster for the offense. Stroud was sacked 3 times and faced constant pressure when dropping back to pass. He threw for only 188-yard no touchdowns and 1 interception. The running game was solid by rushing for 114 yards, but clearly not enough. The offense could score only 3 field goals. The defense played well, holding the explosive Rams offense to 14 points, but it wasn't enough in a 14-9 loss. Also, penalties really hurt Houston. They had 11 penalties for 80 yards. Some were on the offensive line or pre-snap infractions. Week 2 against Tampa Bay showed slight improvement, but the same fundamental issues. Stroud threw for 207 yards and a touchdown, but was sacked 3 more times. The running game was stagnant, with Nick Chubb averaging just 3.6 yards per carry, though he did break free for a 25-yard touchdown run with 2 mins, 10 seconds left in the game to give Houston the lead. The defense played solid, limiting Baker Mayfield to just 215 passing yards and sacked him 4 times. However, the defense could not hold the Buccaneers on the last drive as the Texans lost 20-19 when Rachaad White scored a touchdown with seconds left in the game. Week 3 against Jacksonville was the same story as the first 2 games. Stroud didn't help the cause by throwing 2 interceptions, including a late one that effectively ended the game, but the loss is not entirely on him. The issues with poor red zone and third down efficiency, offensive line and protection issues with Houston's rookie left tackle, Ariante Ursery under pressure multiple times, and penalties all played a major role in their loss against the Jaguars. Nico Collins finally broke out and had 104 receiving yards, including a 50-yard touchdown pass play, but was not enough to win. Like Week 2, the defense could not stop the Jaguars' offense late in the game as the Jaguars scored a touchdown late in the game to seal the victory. So what the hell is going on with the Houston Texans? I've identified 5 key factors that explain their shocking 0-3 start. Factor number 1, the offensive line collapse. This is the most obvious and significant issue. Trading away Laramie Tunsil has proven to be a massive miscalculation. Ursery has struggled mightily in his first 3 NFL games, allowing multiple sacks and countless pressures. But it's not just the rookie, the entire line has regressed. Right tackle Titus Howard, who signed a 3-year, $56 million extension, has been inconsistent at best. The interior line has struggled with stunts and blitzes, leaving Stroud under constant duress. Stroud is starting to press and shuffle his feet in the pocket instead of keeping them set, a sign that the pass protection, or lack thereof, is getting to him. The ripple effects of poor offensive line play are devastating. Stroud doesn't have time to let deep roots develop. The running game can't establish rhythm. The offense becomes predictable as they rely on quick passes to avoid sacks. The entire offensive identity that made the Texans so dynamic has been compromised by the inability to protect the quarterback. Factor number 2, the injury bug. Every NFL team deals with injuries, but the Texans have been hit particularly hard at key positions. Joe Mixon's absence has left a gaping hole in the running game. Nick Chubb has been solid in Mixon's place, but he is no longer the player he was before his gruesome injury. On defense, key players like cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Smith and Jimmy Ward are injured at already thin group at cornerback and safety. Factor number 3, lack of number 1 receiver. All young quarterbacks need a number 1 receiver. The Texans signed Diggs to be Stroud's number 1 receiver before his injury and then eventually leaving for the Patriots. Stroud struggled once Diggs was injured, and this is clearly evident in Stroud's numbers. Last year, through the first 8 games with Diggs, Stroud threw for 1,148 passing yards, 11 TDs, and 4 interceptions. Without Diggs, Stroud threw for 1,779 passing yards, 9 TDs, and 8 interceptions. Statistically, Diggs was having a solid, not great season according to his standard, but his presence alone allowed the other receivers more opportunities to make plays. But more importantly, provides a go-to guy for Stroud in key moments. Factor number 4, coaching change. The biggest change is on the offensive side. Offensive coordinator Bobby Slowik was fired and replaced with Nick Caley. Slowik was fired because the thought was his offense was regressed and no longer works. With the offense under new offensive coordinator Caley, the offense seems even worse. The offense has been very plain vanilla with no creativity. The offense was supposed to revolve around Stroud and his best traits, the ones we saw as a rookie and early in his sophomore season. Instead, the new system has regressed his growth as a quarterback so far through 3 weeks. Also, the red zone offense has been particularly atrocious. The Texans remain the only NFL team without a red zone touchdown. They are 0 for 4 so far when in the red zone situation. Factor number 5, the weight of expectations. The Texans entered the season as division favorites and a possible Super Bowl contender. With the Colts' surprise start to 3-0 and Jaguars' 2-1 start to the season, the pressure is mounting more and more on the team to start winning games to keep up with the Colts and Jaguars. So where do the Texans go from here? Is the season already lost at 0-3, or is there still hope for a turnaround? History isn't encouraging. Since 1979, only 6 teams have made the playoffs after starting 0-3. But there are reasons for cautious optimism. First, the schedule gets slightly easier. After facing 2 playoff contenders in the Rams, Buccaneers, and Jaguars, the Texans have winnable games coming up against the Titans, Ravens, Seahawks, and 49ers. Stringing together a couple of victories could restore confidence, start getting momentum, and get the season back on track. Second, Joe Mixon's return should provide a significant boost to the offense. His ability as both a runner and receiver will give Stroud a reliable outlet and help establish the play-action passing game that was so effective last season. A 1-2 punch of Mixon and Chubb will make the running game more dynamic. Even a functional running game would take pressure off the struggling offensive line and open up the entire offense to allow Caley to call plays to take advantage of Stroud's strengths. Third, the defense has actually played reasonably well despite the team's record. They're allowing just 17 points per game, which should be good enough to win with even average offensive production. This ranks them tied for 5th in the league in scoring defense. They also have 9 sacks through 3 weeks and on pace for 51 sacks. Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter have formed an effective pass-rushing duo, and the secondary has been solid if not spectacular despite all of the injuries in the secondary. One criticism is closing out games as they allowed game-winning drives for the past 2 games. That said, the offense still needs to step up and help the defense. Fourth, the AFC South remains wide open. The Colts are a surprise at 3-0, but there are still question marks on Daniel Jones if he can continue to play at a high level for the whole season, and they haven't been hit with the injury bug yet. The Jaguars lead at 2-1, but they've looked far from dominant. The Titans are 0-3 with no help coming in the near future for their rookie quarterback Cam Ward. Texans have an opportunity to make up ground if they can get things turned around. The most critical adjustment must come on the offensive line. Whether it's scheme changes to provide more help for Ursery, personnel adjustments, or a trade for veteran help, protecting Stroud has to be the top priority. No quarterback, no matter how talented, can succeed while being pressured on nearly half of his dropbacks. Once the play of the offensive line improve, the Texans will also rediscover their offensive identity. Last year, they used Stroud's accuracy and processing speed to create explosive plays off play action. They utilized pre-snap motion to create favorable matchups. They got the ball to their playmakers in space. That creative, aggressive approach has been missing through 3 games. For Stroud personally, this is a critical moment in his young career. How he responds to this adversity will reveal a lot about his character and resilience. The great quarterbacks find ways to succeed even when conditions aren't ideal. They elevate those around them. They adapt and overcome. This is Stroud's opportunity to prove he belongs in that conversation. The same goes for Ryans as a head coach. It's easy to lead when everything is going well. The true test comes when facing adversity. How Ryans adjusts his approach, motivates his team, and navigates this rough patch will define his second season more than any win or loss. The Texans' 0-3 start is disappointing, but it's not a death sentence. This remains a talented team with a bright future. The question is whether they can overcome their current issues quickly enough to salvage this season to emerge back as contenders. They're a young, talented team experiencing growing pains while adjusting to life with new players and new offensive system. So what the hell is going on with the Houston Texans? The simple answer is everything. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. They've had offensive line issues, injuries to key players, coaching adjustments that haven't worked, and the crushing weight of expectations. It's the perfect storm of factors that has turned a promising season into a nightmare start. But the story of the 2025 Texans is still being written. 3 games don't define a season, just as one season doesn't define a franchise's trajectory. The talent is still there. The potential is still there. The question is whether they can overcome this adversity and get back to being the team that won the AFC South the last 2 seasons. What do you think? Can the Texans turn their season around, or is 0-3 too deep a hole to climb out of? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.